Okay. Oh, not again. Right. So thank you once again for joining us on our Saturday evening presentation, where we enlighten you about the value of health, looking at educating and empowering you, where you can take charge, take responsibility to live your best life. Our topic this evening is an understanding um, part of our lineup of concepts, health, the echo of inner alignment. And the theme, the echo of inner alignment, uh, sheds a light on a different perspective of health, which is very important that we begin to adopt and expand our thinking on because we've been conditioned to think of health in a particular way. And because we have been, our approach to dealing with sickness and disease has been limited in being able to give us all the answers that we need for fully recovering and restoring what we call health. I call it the echo of inner alignment because, as we know, an echo is a reflection of a sound. An echo is not the source, it is just a reflection of, and in a very similar way, we tend to think of health as the genesis of it. We think of health as the standard, as the source. But health is not so much the source at all. Health really is the echo of the inner alignment in much the same way that an echo is not the source of the sound, it's just a reflection of the sound. And so we need to begin to think of health that way, that health is not what we want to pursue. Health is not the end goal. Health is not what we are striving towards. What we should be striving towards is inner alignment, which will produce the echo of health. And as we begin, we want to take a look at the World Health Organization definition of health, which they established in 1948. It said health is a state of complete physical, mental, spiritual, and social well being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. Now, I inserted the word spiritual, that's not in their original definition, which for me does not make it complete. And so this is a complete and more accurate definition of what health is. But what I want to point out to us is that, first of all, that health truly is a state. It's not a feeling, and it's not just limited to our physical well being, which is how we are generally conditioned to think about health. If we hear about a health seminar, we talk about healthy living, or we think about health in general, our attention generally goes to our physical well being. But health is really a state, which is more about how you are rather than what you have. And so that state is complete, and that complete state is physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and social well being. And it's not the absence of disease or infirmity. Again, our mindset and our conditioning in our how we approach it in practical application within the healthcare industry, how we approach it is that health is we are healthy if we don't feel sick. So if there's the absence of disease or infirmity, we think that we are in a state of health, and that's not necessarily so. So we have to think of health, not what is not there, but what is there, which is a complete state of physical, mental, spiritual, and social well being that actually creates that inner alignment that echoes this state we call health. So, what I want us to take away from here is that health and life are synonymous because when we talk about a state of health, we're talking about every aspect and every dimension of our life, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and socially within the social frameworks, how we interact with the social framework of life. So, therefore, every aspect of life is in this state. So, when we say health, we really should be thinking our entire life. And so, this is a perspective that we're going to unfold to help us. And this is important because if we don't understand the fullness or the wholeness of health, we will continue to approach it as though disease really is the issue and not part of that, and not part of a misalignment, if you understand what I'm saying. So, henceforth, as we go through, when we think health, we should think our whole life. So, health is not about our bodies, health is about you, it's about me, and the entirety of our life. And that state we call health is not the source, it is just the echo of that inner alignment, and that will become clearer as we go through. But because we think of health in a limited context as just being pertaining to the body, we end up now approaching ill health in a very limited capacity that has not served us well. As a result, the world has ended up with a global pandemic, which the World Health Organization calls the global burden of disease. And it's a condition that's affecting every country on the planet. Our entire planet really is a sick planet. And the interesting thing about this is that if we went onto the World Health Organization's website, we would see that their projection over the next decade is that these statistics are going to get worse. So it doesn't matter what you may call the condition, we have lifestyle induced chronic diseases that is escalating across the planet and is growing annually. And it is a global pandemic far greater than the COVID pandemic that we had a few years ago, which killed 20 million people over a space of 2 years. The mortality rate is 50 million a year. How much more of a pandemic do we have? It's accounting for 74% of global death. Think about that. That lifestyle induced chronic disease kills more people on this planet. It takes more lives than wars, accidents, violence, crime put together. Yet, we don't think anything of it anywhere as close to how we thought about the COVID pandemic, yet it's a greater problem. Now, we need to all keep and bear in mind that the escalation and the growing rates of lifestyle induced chronic disease, that's not the problem. Disease is not the problem, it is just the outcome. And if we continue to see disease as the problem and trying to fix the problem and not recognize it's just the outcome of a deeper problem, we will always keep falling short in our approach and in our understanding as we develop new modalities to help it. And so this is the picture of what we have. But just to be clear, that disease, as chronic as it is, and this is not a webinar where we're going to get into any specific types of illnesses, but just to know that the problem does not lie here, that disease really is just an outcome. And so we are looking at a wake-up call to health. And at the root of this is recognizing the value of our life. Now, health is about our life because health is every aspect and every dimension of our life. And from 25 years of clinical practice, I've been in the healthcare industry for 30 years. 25 years was clinical practice of naturopathic medicine using various modalities of assessment and evaluation and working with people in various countries over that 25 years. And I've seen all types of conditions and I've seen all kind of recoveries from it. What has come out over those years is that I would say is safe to say is that most people take their health and therefore their life for granted. And part of the reason for that is because when we don't recognize the value of a thing, it is either neglected and misused because it's taken for granted. We do that not just with our life, but by extension, our health. So here we are today where we are living longer, but not necessarily living healthier. Technology is affording us, and greater know-how and understanding is affording us to live longer, but not healthier. What we have instead is that rather than thriving in life as we should, we are striving and we are surviving. And it leads to a lesser quality of life and unrealized potential. The reason why this is important to point out is because people all over this world, every day, we are chasing life, trying to make a better life, a better living. We want to have a better standard of living, a better quality of life. And we think that health is over here on one side, and our relationships are over here on another side, and our financial struggles is here on another side. And we think there are different aspects of life that are independent and separate. I want us to understand they are not, and that will become clearer as we go along. And so, if we understand that health is really about our life, when we look at the solution as we're going to, of how we can return to enjoying a high quality of life and therefore a high quality of health, what automatically comes along with that is improvements on every level of living. And so that's where we're heading. But we must come to a place where we recognize the value of our life. And there is a reason why we tend not to do that, and we end up taking life for granted. You know, it's like if you ever had wanted to get this your dream car, and you drove your dream car out of the dealership and you got home for the next several months, maybe weeks, you every day you go out, you look at your car, you make sure it's clean, you will take care of it well, and you're consistent and you're doing it regularly. 6, 8 months down the road, it doesn't get as much attention because we become complacent and it's all taking things for granted. Now, there's a reason why we do that, and that's going to become clearer as well. Now, as the statistics show, 3 out of 4 deaths worldwide are caused by lifestyle related chronic disease. So, folks, us on the call, the majority of us are going to go by one of these. Our life is going to come to an end by one of these chronic diseases. The thing is, we're going to spend the last 20 or 30 of our years of our lives with a lesser quality of life, nursing it until it takes us out. But along the way, what leads us to that robs us of a quality of life and the standard of living that we are meant to enjoy. So to perceive and address disease as the problem is like trying to mop up water from a leaking pipe without trying to fix the pipe. You see, we can mop it and we can dry the floor and it'll last for a time, but the pipe is going to leak again. If we don't fix the pipe, it is going to leak again, maybe in another spot. Maybe another spot will get wet and we can mop it up, but it will leak again. And this is the approach that healthcare has had over the years because we don't perceive health within the right context, and because we look at disease as the problem and not the outcome of a problem, our approach has been deficient to where we are forever mopping the floor until, as the years go by, it becomes so wet it will just end up taking us out. That is not the way life has been meant to live. So disease is just only the signal, it's not the source. So in the very same way that health is an echo of the inner alignment, so too is disease, similarly an echo of inner misalignment. And we will get to understand that. But the good news is we can fix the pipe where there is no leak at all, because healing is an inherent design to the human system. Innate healing, as it's known throughout the world of medicine, it is the creative flow of life encoded into the human design. Spontaneous healing is when the harmony of the inner self fully awakens that alignment. Now, let me shed some light on this so you can grasp it. In medicine, we know that the body is self-healing. We know that because there are many placebo-controlled randomized studies that have been done. You can go on to go on the internet and you can search the National Library of Medicine and PubMed, and you'll see there's documented reports. For example, there's a study that you can see where they took 16,000 patients with chronic and debilitating arthritis, and they told them about the latest, greatest medicine that was going to help. It's going to take away the pain, and remove the stiffness, improve their function and quality of life. And all they gave them was just a saline injection into their knees and into the joints. And they told them that for the next 6 months, they're going to enjoy a better quality of life. Over 50% of those 16,000 people, the pain significantly reduced, the stiffness went away, and their function was far better. And so we know that what it shows the researchers is that because they never received the medicine, yet they got the response, they know that there's a neurobiological response where the body, according to medicine, somehow is able to initiate biological responses whereby it can take away its pain, it can reduce the stiffness, the swelling, the inflammation, just by thought alone, belief alone, expectation. But what's important to note is that the research shows that it has a lot to do with the patient's relationship with the practitioner, as well as what is made to be expected out of it. The whole long and short of it is that healing is within. The capacity to heal from anything, no limitations on that, from anything resides within us. So the placebo effect, which we know is real and is well documented, we know that the body has that capacity. Spontaneous healing now is a step further, where there's documented evidence and books written on it, where the body will heal from terminal and life-threatening conditions and will completely recover without any intervention or specific healing modalities. That's well documented as well. So the healing capacity is within us. If I may just throw out an account from the scriptures that people may be familiar with. There was this lady that had a hemorrhaging problem. They called it an issue of blood, which she had for 12 years. She's been to all the doctors, they couldn't help her. And she heard about this man called Jesus and what he was doing. And she said to herself, if I could touch the hem of his garment, I'd be healed. And she went against all the cultural norms, pushed her way through, touched the hem of his garment, and Jesus in the end turned around and said to her, your faith has made you whole. In other words, he was saying the catalyst for what brought the healing of this 12-year condition was inside you. Your faith has made you whole. She believed if she touched his garment, that would happen. So I'm saying to us that within us lies the capacity to completely recover from any condition if we understand how it works. There is a creative flow of life. The very thing that formed, organized, and built our bodies in the womb, the very thing that is running it, maintaining it, the thing that is creating millions of cells every minute as millions die and millions come back, the very thing that's operating and running trillions of functions right now, that creative flow that is constantly running, within that is the ability and the capacity built in and encoded into the human design to heal and recover from anything. So it's not just only that the people say the body is self-healing, and while that may be true to a point, it is more true to say the human being. It is the design of our whole being, spirit, soul, body. Within that design is encoded the human capacity to be able to recover from any illness. If we have an illness and it's not being healed, then something is blocking that creative flow. The order of that flow is being blocked. And if we can unblock it, which is the process that happens partially in the placebo effect, and it happens more fully with spontaneous healing. Spontaneous healing is when the harmony of that inner flow, that inner life, fully awakens that creative flow that resides in all of us. So all that to say is that we can actually fix the pipe. The pipe does not have to keep leaking. It resides within us. We just have to understand how to be able to tap that. It's been known through millennia that the body and the human being has that self-healing capacity, going as far back as Hippocrates, the father of medicine, who said the natural healing force within each of us is the greatest force in getting well. The body has the innate capacity to heal itself once we remove the interference, especially the interference of the mind. These are important things to take note of because we're looking at understanding health and healing from a different level, a broader perspective, and one that is more true. The moment you change your perception is the moment you rewrite the chemistry of your body. These are very profound and very powerful statements of truth that are all medically and all validated by research. I like what Deepak Chopra said when he said the physical body is a field of energy, transformation, and intelligence. And when given the right conditions, it knows how to return to balance and heal spontaneously. And so, all that is to say that we within us, understanding the context of health that we started with, we know that we can come to a place where we can recover from anything and more than that, maintain a healthy life. And so as we get into expanding and opening this for our understanding, I want to share what Thomas Edison, a very popular inventor, said. Very insightful remark. He said, the doctor of the future will give no medicine, but will interest his patients in the care of the human frame, in diet, and in the cause and prevention of disease. I want to highlight the first and the last sentence, will give no medicine, and the cause and the prevention of disease. You see, if we truly understand the cause and the prevention of disease, we will really need no medicine. That's not to say that in our process of recovery, interventions and using external modalities is not necessary because we really do need it. And so, but in the fullness of it, if we truly understand the cause and prevention of disease, which we also, by extension, is a process of growth and development, but when we understand that, there will be less and less and less need for medicine. Why? Because there is no greater medicine, no greater force of healing than what resides within us. And we're going to get a little bit of deeper understanding of how that works. Thomas Edison also, as we all know, created what we know as the light bulb today. And why I mention this is because when he introduced that technology that changed the world, it was such a transformative shift, unlike what the world had ever seen. But it took more than a generation for it to be culturally accepted because, as the history tells us, it was perceived by and large as just another option to what exists in terms of what they use to light up spaces. It was seen as just another option. People did not understand it. And I mentioned this to say that we're going to be talking about a technology as well that helps us to harness this inner capacity that resides within us. And technology has brought us in healthcare to a place where we have capabilities of monitoring, of therapies, of being able to see what's going on within the human body. Technology has brought us a long way. And we are in a technological age where I'm going to talk about a technology that will help us and aid us to tap into this inner capacity and release it to do what it naturally will do. We're going to talk about that as well as we go through. But bring it all together, we need to understand that there is this flow of life that sustains us, that comes from within. We know that we are three-dimensional beings. We're not going to get too deep into this, but just understand the model and the context of it. Our state of being is what creates the experience of our life, whether that experience is sickness, disease, joy, happiness, frustration, whatever it might be. It all comes from our state of being. Our state of being is that inner condition of our heart and mind, which shapes the quality of the life we experience. It determines the quality of our well-being, relationships, sense of purpose, and effectiveness of living. And I lay these things out like this so that you can do your own research and you can bring it, drive it deeper into your heart so that you can grasp the understanding. So when we talk about state of being, the condition of our heart and mind, we're talking about the aspects of what we refer to as our soul. This is where our self-awareness, our sense of identity, this is the creative center of our body. What we hold in our minds, how our mindsets, our perceptions of things, this is where we navigate life. This is where the choices that we make happen. This is thoughts, emotions, perceptions. This is what projects out into the reality. This is where life is actually being transacted. One of the things that I want to make very clear to us is that we experience life on the inside, not on the outside. Many of us are aware of that. But as I speak to people, some people sometimes are a bit confused, thinking that what's happening on the external of our life is what we are experiencing. If we were to shut our mind off for a moment, we could be experiencing anything on the outside and have no feelings or experience about it. Experience, how we experience life, that happens on the inside. And so our state of being, which is what shapes how we are going to transact with life, that is critical and central to leading us to what we are going to experience first in our bodies and by extension what we're going to experience in our life. Our state of mind, which emerges out of our state of being, it is the fruit, you can say, of our state of being. This shapes our thoughts, decisions, and reactions to life, directly affecting the quality of our choices, physical experiences, and the standard of living we create. Now, you may be saying, what does all this to do with health? Everything that we experience, as I said before, if we are experiencing a healthy or ill health life, whether we are experiencing any aspect of our life, remember, health is physical, mental, spiritual, social, it is every aspect of our life. The very thing that is impacting every dimension of our life is right here. Ill health is just one aspect of the same root. Our relationship issues, our financial struggles, they're all of the same root. The condition of the mind and heart and the choices that we make. As it relates to the topic this evening, we're talking about the health or the ill health that we experience that robs us of significant quality of life. And so we want, as long as the soul or the aspects of mind of heart, when that is conditioned by or calibrated by the inner essence of our being, which is spiritual, when love and truth configures the heart and mind, the flow through to the body produces homeostasis and it reflects that inner state of balance, and that is the echo of health right there. When, however, the soul is being conditioned and it's an inverted flow, and it is being conditioned societally, when the things that are external, we are taught from a very early age to conform to and to be accepted and to fit in and to be in all ways conform to the world. When we reverse the flow of the order of life, the mind becomes conditioned otherwise. This all comes out in our workshop, so we won't get into this at this point. But when we invert the flow of life to go the opposite way, rather from spirit, soul, body, it goes body, soul, spirit, it creates an inner conflict because we now have contrary values to what comes from inside out. This, our state of being, when it's conditioned externally, it creates a fracture between our inner and outer natures. I'm going to give you an example, and I'm going to go through a couple of things for us to understand what that really looks like so we can relate it and identify with it. Because this inner flow from the inside out is what obscures our spiritual reality, is what obscures our spiritual identity. So that when I speak with people, and you, I'm sure everyone here is going would relate, that we agree intellectually that we are three-dimensional beings and that we are spiritual beings, we have a divine nature, etc. But we don't really quite understand how to conceptualize that and appropriate it to where it actually becomes what governs our life. Because it is really obscured into the background, we can't really touch it when we invert the order of life from the outside in rather than the creative order from the inside out. When that happens and it creates this inner conflict, this is what we know to be stress. What we call stress today arises from this inner conflict between our dual natures. Spirit and body is meant to function as one in a harmonious state, and the bridge between it is what we call the soul. And the difference is whether the conditioning of mind and heart and the will that navigates life is either conditioned from the inside or it's being conditioned from the outside. That's the difference. And so this is the bridge that we need to look at. Right here is what we want to focus on, because we need to get heart and mind. The mind is what connects us to the external reality. Our heart connects us to the internal reality. So when the values and the qualities flow from the inside into heart, the heart conditions the mind, and we have the echo on the outside that is harmonious. When it flows from the inside and the mind is conditioned by the qualities of the external reality and it corrupts the heart, our spiritual nature becomes obscured. And so, if we are going to release that innate potential to heal and to recover from anything, we have to reorder that inverted flow. We have to bring it back to its natural flow. Life must flow from the inside out. And there are principles and a pathway of how we can do that. Of course, tonight we can't get in to the dynamics of all of how that works. But understand that if you were to take away anything from this, understand that the condition of our bodies, regardless of what name they call it, that ill condition is just one aspect of every other area of our life. So when we understand this and we begin to work on bringing this back in order, not only is our body going to function better and we're going to recover, but we're going to find that every other aspect of life is going to improve as well. So let me look at stress, which we know is an internal reality, but we tend to think of it otherwise because of how we are conditioned to look at life from the outside in. Stress is the number one cause of disease and dysfunction. The World Health Organization, the American Psychological Association, and the Mental Health Foundation all agree statistically that between 60 to 80% of people in modern societies live in a chronic and recurrent state of stress. That's almost everybody lives continuously stressed. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention says up to 90% of doctors' visits are stress related. Stress is the basic cause of 75 to 90% of human illness and disease. Over 90% of disease is caused by stress, thoughts, and beliefs. Dr. Bruce Lipton, who's the author of Epigenetics, cellular biologist, he has a very interesting book, which is a good read, and he talks about how the frequencies of our thoughts and emotions and our beliefs, because every thought is a frequency, how it actually interacts with the DNA in our bodies, and every thought is read by the cells of our bodies, right down to the genetic level. And that's interesting for us to know, so that this whole inner flow, whether it's positive or whether it's negative, if it's positive, the flow is free and there is health. When it's disrupted, when it's inverted, when it's resistance, when it's going against the flow, against the current, creating a resistance, then we can get all types of problems. This is what stress is. Stress is, by all the authorities, the number one cause of disease and dysfunction. So I want to just open it up a little bit to help us to understand what stress is, because we are approaching stress today as though stress is just another disease and that has to be managed and controlled. And if we do that, like we're doing it with lifestyle disease, we're also going to be very limited. But as we already pointed out, just to reiterate, that stress, that inner conflict, it is the dissonance or the disharmony that emerges when the heart and mind is out of alignment with our true essence of being. It is the emotional pressure from being divinely designed to live one way, but socially conditioned to perform another way. Stress is that inner unrest we feel when life is driven by doing instead of grounded in being. This is the difference between inner and outer living. It is a state that disconnects us from our true essence of being. So that inner conflict leads to fractured living, which is the source of stress. This is just a few lines of the many ways that it's reflected in our lives. The source of stress, this inner conflict, this fractured way of living, it is privately experiencing life one way, but openly pretending it's another. I want us to recognize within ourselves how many of us live with this inner fracture. It is projecting a positive self image, yet concerned about what people think about you, people's opinions of you. It wrecks our lives more than anything else, but we project one way. It's saying we value truth, yet not be honest about how we really feel. It is when our sense of well being is defined by outer circumstances. I mean, we run into this every day. You run into it every day. I run into it. We all do, where whether we feel happy, sad, gratitude, peaceful, full of and joyful, what life is working good for us on the outside. So if circumstances around us are not ideal, our sense of well-being is affected. It ought not to be. Our well-being is what governs or determines our circumstances and not the other way around. This inner conflict, it is wanting to live with self-esteem, yet always seeking validation. It's saying you want to be healthy, but neglect to engage in healthy habits. It's speaking about others in ways that you wouldn't want to be spoken of. It's thinking or feeling one way, but saying or doing another. Like saying we love ourselves, but yet we engage in self-destructive habits. It's a fractured way of living. Ladies and gentlemen, when we live with this internal fracture between what we feel and what goes on in the inside and what reflects on the outside in terms of our actions and our words, etc. When we live like this, it is impossible to avoid what we call stress. Because when we look out into the world from this vantage point, we will always see reality based on this fracture. And we respond accordingly. So it's not the circumstances of life that cause us stress, but how we perceive and respond to them based on the internal framework of our mindsets, which is shaped by our state of being. And our state of being, the condition of our heart and mind, either from the outside in or the inside out. So you understand, we don't see life as it is, we always see life as we are. Our perception of life is always filtered through our inner state. So when thoughts, emotions, words, and actions radiate a single frequency, there is peace, freedom, and that's the end of stress. That's a tall order. But what makes it achievable is that this is our natural design. We are inherently designed to live this way. Now, it is a process of unlearning and learning that has to be done to bring us to this place. But just to know that we can actually fix the pipe. And we have the wherewithal, we have the capacity, and we have the pathway, we have the process, we understand how it works. It is for us to engage it. Not because we want to overcome a disease, but because we want to have the best quality and the most authentic quality of life that we can have. You see, ladies and gentlemen, it's not about getting to the goal of not of recovering from an illness. It's not getting to the goal of having a nice home and having a nice job and having a nice relationship. It's not getting to the goal. It is enjoying every step of the journey towards that. And that's what we're talking about, quality of life, that helps us to have the standard of living. So when we talk about health, when I speak of health to people, I'm speaking about your entire life improving, not just the condition of your body, because the principle of one is going to be the principle for all. And so how it translates as it relates to this evening's topic about health, how it translates into whether we experience it or not, it comes down to the central nervous system, which is what determines how we experience life itself. You see, between the mind, that energetic, invisible part of our life, and our body, which is the physical, visible part of it, the bridge between coming from the formless into the form is the central nervous system. If you shut the brain and the central nervous system off, we may be alive, but we would have no experience of life. This is what gives us the experience, is our central nervous system. Now, the central nervous system, it extends into the autonomic nervous system. Don't get concerned about if you're not familiar with these biological terms. It's very simple. The autonomic nervous system controls all physiological functions, and it has two branches. This is bringing it right back to the inner and outer again. I want us to put the pieces together and see this whole fractured way of living. This works its way right back to stress. It works its way right back to the inversion of the flow of life. But this autonomic nervous system, which controls all physiology, it has two branches. The first branch is the sympathetic nervous system. You can easily remember it by, it begins with S, and S is for stress. So the SNS, it deals with stress response. When the sympathetic system is dominant, this is our fight flight response of the body. When that's activated by stress, it leads to all chronic disease that we know of today, all the major ones. Chronic stress, all of this is scientifically validated, and you can do the research. Chronic stress promotes oxidation and systemic inflammation, which is the root of most lifestyle disease, gut dysfunction, DNA damage, and premature aging. So when 60 to 80% of the human population in modern societies live with the SNS dominant all the time, there is no wonder why lifestyle-induced disease is a global pandemic, because most of us live with this in overdrive. That's how we live. Now, that's one of the two branches. The other branch is the parasympathetic nervous system. You can remember this because this begins with P, and P is for peace, which is the opposite of stress. So the PNS, this deals with healing and recovery. It is where the body enters rest and restoration. When the PNS is activated, that happens where there is mind-body coherence, when there's inner peace, when we have more authenticity of life, where there's no more fracture. This restores the homeostasis, optimizes immune function, cellular repair, and our biological systems become coordinated like a symphony that's working inside. The regulatory state of our central nervous system, which oversees this, it can be observed through brainwave activity. And this is how we can know. I'm bringing it down to a level where we can now get in touch with this. When our inner state is influenced by negative thoughts and emotions, fear, worry, anxiety, etc., brainwave activity shifts the body into sympathetic dominance. That is the stress response. The other side of it is when our inner state is one of homeostasis, balance, and order, influenced by positive thoughts and emotions. Brainwave activity shifts the body into parasympathetic dominance. It is the difference between the inner and the outer. It is the difference between the inauthentic way that we live, where inside we feel one way, but outside we project something else. And so you understand our body reflects it, but this is not the problem. We're looking at this and saying how to fix the parasympathetic nervous system, how to fix the outcomes that when the sympathetic system is dominant and we start to see a breakdown of all types of things and the inflammation skyrockets and all the stress response hormones, cortisol flies up, adrenaline. We want to know how to fix those things that are manifesting. Those are the outcome. Those are not the problem. The outcome is deeper. And we have control over it. We just have to understand and be willing to engage that process. So we must understand that disease does not happen to us, it happens through us. And the condition of the body is determined by the spiritual life that animates it. It gives it life, it sustains it. It built it, it runs it, and keeps everything in its order, provided that there is harmony and balance. Health is the echo of this internal alignment and balance. Dis-ease is the unrest when it is out of alignment. And that in that alignment or misalignment is between our heart and our mind, or our mind and our body being out of balance. And we have a system inside of us that determines which one will be more dominant based on the state of being that we choose to embrace, that we choose to cultivate, because the choice is always going to be up to us to do that. So, to unlock the natural flow of healing in our bodies, we need to learn how to harmonize thoughts, emotions, words, and actions to be one and the same. No disparity between them. This restores the natural harmony between our mind and body, creating that homeostasis. And it restores parasympathetic dominance, which is where all healing repair. This is the process of what they call spontaneous healing. It resides within us. We are designed with this encoded within us. It's just that the bridge between our inner and outer lives, which is mind and heart, that bridge, we need to be able to bridge that to make it whole and to keep it in balance. This is where I'm going to tell you about a technology. Here's my question. What if we could look at your brainwave activity if you're in a state of sympathetic dominance and the stress response is raging on the inside and things are out of balance and we're feeling various symptoms? What if we can influence the brainwave activity to resemble a state of balance? What do you think would happen? Well, two things would happen, because the brainwave activity either shifts your body into parasympathetic dominance or sympathetic dominance. What if we can get the brainwave activity to look as though we're in that state of balance? Then the body will begin to respond, as well as the mind will begin to respond, because the brain processes both our thoughts, emotions, as well as all of our biology. What if we can do that? Now, we can do it through meditation, metacognitive exercise, breath work, and all the different types of modalities that we could employ to help to harmonize, and it does increase it. But it's time, it's effort, and it's work. But I want to tell you about a technology that harnesses this inner flow, a technology that synchronizes and harmonizes our brainwave activity to resemble these states of balance. And the obvious response is the body begins to function better. And then eventually the mind begins to function better. It's a technology that uses no medicine, no substances, no ingredients, no equipment, and it interfaces with this inner design, this inner wisdom and intelligence that runs, heals, and sustains our body. It's a technology that was developed by this man. He's a brilliant engineer, very successful. He made this statement based on the technology that he's developed. He said, I'm here to build something generational that will transform the world. And the reason why I bring it up is because it indeed can transform the world. Why? Because it can help us to transform our lives. He is the CEO and founder of a company called the Super Patch Company. It's a technology that, unlike anything that has ever been developed before or anything that exists today. Why I have integrated it into my work as I work with people today is because it's no medicines of any type, and because it interfaces with the natural system that's already within. And all it does is removes the resistance. It removes the interference so that the flow can happen naturally. Now, I can't tell you if you cut what I've been saying so far, there's nothing that I've ever come across in my 25 years of clinical experience that's more powerful than that, because it is hugely transformative. Let me show you a video where Mr. Dhaliwal is giving a demonstration using EEG equipment to show the simplicity but the potency of what his super patches can do. This is about a minute and a half or so. Let's just watch it and see.
Hi everyone, I'm Jay Dhaliwal. I'm the CEO and founder of Vox Life and the creator of Vox Life HPT. Today, I want to talk to you about our Harmony Neuro Patch. And what this product does is actually stimulates receptors on our skin, sending a neurosignal to our brain to help it reach homeostasis. This is the only product in the world that relies on the neurohaptic system that every single one of us has to optimize our neurology and optimize our health. Today, with the help of Dr. Mark DeBrincat, our VP of Clinical Strategy, we're going to be using an FDA-cleared 19-channel EEG headset, as well as FDA-cleared software to visualize, record, and show the impact that our technology has on our neurology and our brains to help it reach optimal performance. What we want to show today is how the Harmony Neuro Patch helps that dysregulated yellow, blue, and red colors in the brain maps transform into that healthy green homeostasis neurology that is the foundation of health and wellness. So what we're looking at right now is a neurological QEEG output of Mike's limbic system. The 19 channels are reading over 60,000 brainwaves a second and generating an output of neurofunction and brainwaves. What we want to see now is where that suboptimal red and yellow colors are. We want to see them turning as much as possible to a healthy green with the application of our HPT patch. So we've applied the patch now to Mike's arm, and within 10 seconds, you're seeing that predominant yellow and red become predominantly green. Just for clarification, ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing in the world that has this output at this rate of speed without drugs, without chemicals, without electricity. That's the power of Vox HPT. So when we see a healthy green neurology, what we're looking at is a brain and a mind in homeostasis. It is operating in its optimal function. And this is so important. And this is why it's so important. So Vox Life HPT, as we demonstrated with our Neuro Patch, helps the central nervous system reach homeostasis in our neurology. And the reason this is so important for overall wellness and health is that neurology is the top of the pyramid of our physiological health and wellness paradigm. First is neurology at the very top, then there's chemistry, then there's biology, then there's physics and mechanics. Neurology will have an impact all the way through our entire physiology. Healthy neurology, healthy body, better wellness.
So let me just clarify a couple of things that Jay would have said there. He's looking at brainwave activity, and with the use of the Liberty Patch, you saw it go when the brainwave activity became more coherent. For those who are familiar with this, or you can do your research and you see the colors are all relative to what he said. When he talks about the brain in homeostasis, he's talking about the hemispheres and the regions of the brain coming into coherence and orderly function. This is a state of brain function that is relative to a state of mind that the average human being doesn't have. You can find that, and you can find measurements of that of people who are in deep states of meditation, or people who are experienced meditators like monks and so on. But to have our brain function more orderly like that, just by the application of a patch without inducing any type of invasive treatments or medicines, is very phenomenal when we come to understand that. When we understand that brainwave activity is a reflection of the activity of the mind, so that when the brain comes into more coherent and orderly function, it is reflective of a mind that is more orderly. What that is doing is removing the resistance of the stress response, so that the innate capacity that resides, that naturally flows and heals, that is released, because it's like moving the resistance out of the flow, so that the body just naturally does what it's meant to do. This is an approach that has never been done in healthcare before. It is introducing an era of wellness that has not existed before. It's very powerful, it's very potent. Why? Not just because there's no medicines or chemicals or ingredients involved in it, but more so because it's tapping into what already exists within and freeing it up to do its job naturally. If you talk about natural approaches, there's nothing more natural than this. So the link between brain waves and the central nervous system is very, very important, because brainwave activity influences the autonomic nervous system by signaling either the sympathetic or the parasympathetic dominance. So as I was saying, what if we can harmonize and synchronize and regulate the brainwave activity that would shift the body into parasympathetic dominance, where the healing response of the body is more active. And in essence, that's what's happening. Now, there are tens of thousands of brain waves that's happening every minute in our body. And there's no way that you can tap into all of that. But Superpatch has been able, through 15 years of research and development, to tap in to various aspects of it, and they're constantly in research and development on this, to where we can make significant improvements in terms of improving our health and our well-being, both physically and mentally. It's built on, the technology is based on Nobel Prize research, which goes back, and I'm just putting this here for your reference, and you can look at it later, but it goes back into the early 1930s and 40s, where it was discovered that every cell in the human body emits and receives electromagnetic signals. That's well known in biology, physics, and quantum biology. And then later on this side here, there are two Nobel Prize laureates that discovered these channels in the skin. They call them piezo ion channels. These detect anything that touches the skin and sends a signal to your brain. Whatever touches your skin will send a signal to your brain. If a feather lands on you, water touches your skin, heat touches your skin, a fly would land, it will send a signal to your brain, so you will always know what's going on in the environment around you. Well, how the patches work is similar to how a QR code would work. A QR code is just this pattern. It has patterns on it. And if you change the patterns that's arranged on it, you'll change the information that's on it. And so if you put your camera on that, your camera scans it, it sends the signal through the superhighway, and whether it is a website, whether it is a document, you'll see whatever on the other side. Super patches, in a very similar way, didn't have any type of medicine, but what it has on it is a tactile pattern, almost like how Braille works. It's a tactile pattern that, in a manner of speaking, when you stick it on your skin scans the pattern, which sends a signal to your brain. And what Superpatch has been able to figure out after 15 years of research and development is what pattern will synchronize what neural pathway to remove the resistance of that pathway. So for example, if it is you have issues with sleep, you have issues with focus, memory, and attention, you have issues with pain, they have found out what pattern will send a signal to synchronize the neural pathways and remove the resistance of that pathway so that that aspect functions naturally more at its optimal level and performance. And so, in essence, that's how it worked. Now, this is not um, experimental technology. This is 15 years of research and development that has become peer-reviewed, published research, published in respected journals around the world, where this is all, and it's attracting attention from the greatest of minds around the world because nothing has ever been produced that works at this level. And it's sometimes, for some people, find it difficult to wrap their minds around it because you're actually tapping into that innate capacity that resides within us. This is so phenomenal, and this is so ahead of the curve. And what the company have in research and development now to come is absolutely mind-blowing. Last year, the company was invited to major global symposiums, the World Congress of Psychiatry, most recently, the World Congress of Sleep Research, the World Congress on Pain, where the technology and the groundbreaking research has been presented and is attracting attention. This is a new era of wellness that has never existed before. But I want us to understand, people will think of this as another option to what exists. It is like the light bulb. It is nothing like what currently exists. This is tapping into that inner alignment that creates the echo. This is not trying to deal with the echo. This is tapping into the inner alignment. I think you understand what I'm saying. So this is unlocking the potential that resides within us, that's encoded into our being. It's clinically proven to create that mind-body communication. So when the mind and body are harmonized through brainwave synchronization, the mind becomes more orderly, biological systems become more coordinated. This reestablishes homeostasis, optimizing the body's self-healing capacity. Superpatch has so far discovered 13 ways, 13 patterns that will synchronize and harmonize various neural pathways to affect different biological responses in terms of bringing about healing and regeneration within our body. Now, the good thing about it, the long game of this is because the brain processes both thoughts, emotions, as well as physiology. The wonder of this is that when you use these patches consistently over time, not only does the body becomes enhanced and functions better, but so does the mind. And so we have mind-body solutions that everybody needs. People are trying to get away from all these drugs and side effects and chemical reactions, but we have something that enhances physical and mental well-being. It's backed by research, it's clinically proven, it's FDA registered. It addresses some of the most common needs that we have in health, wellness, and lifestyle performance. Very effective, they work almost immediately. Like the demonstration you saw, within a matter of seconds, the brainwave activity starts regulating. They all work. When you stick it on your skin, they all begin to work immediately. There are thousands of testimonies from people all over the world that you can read about online. And the good thing I like about it is that there are no contraindications because there are no ingredients. That makes them completely safe, non-invasive. They're very easy to use. And because of the nature of them, even children can use them without any issues or any concerns. So if we can restore mind-body harmony through brainwave synchronization, that is the key to restoring the homeostasis. Now, it does not, in my opinion, does not replace us engaging our doing the internal work of reordering the natural flow of life. That creative order of life is what we want to do because we want to go beyond feeling better in our bodies and our minds becoming more orderly. We want to go beyond that. So it's great that we could have more clarity of thought, that we could have more fluent decision making. It's good that we can enhance that. It's good that we could have more energy, vitality, and deal with our symptoms. But it's even better when we could engage the process of the internal work to reorder the flow of life so we could have a better quality of life on every level. What I love about these patches as it relates to my work is that where people have found engaging the internal work challenging, it becomes a lot more accessible now because you have a more orderly functioning brain and a better functioning body. And so just to look at some of the indications based on the clinical, they're all clinical research and developed. This is some of the indications. This is the patch that Jay demonstrated. We can do a balance and stability and strength test with this patch, before and after, and you'll see that in a matter of seconds, your strength and your stability and your balance improves. Even your range of motion improves in a matter of seconds of putting the Liberty patch on. The Defend patch is one for immune system and immune response. I have never in my 25 years of clinical experience seen anything that upregulates immune function faster and more immediate than the Defend patch does. The one for pain reduces pain relatively quickly, some people more than others because everybody's body is different, but this is a preference over the over-counter medications. If you're an athlete or you're into the gym or you're into athletic performance, when you use the Victory, you will clearly be able to tell the difference in your strength, your performance, your power when you're working out. This patch is just, they're all incredible patches. But you don't need to be taking harmful energy drinks that are toxic to your liver, toxic to your kidneys and your brain. The boost patch will increase. This is energy on demand, as you need a clean fuel that comes from the inside out. And if you're looking to burn extra calories to get off those unwanted pounds and you can't get the activity in, this will help to increase maybe 300 to 500% more calories just at rest and help you to get to your goal. The Lumi patch, this is an absolute wonderful patch when it comes to the health of your skin, complexion, hydration, and while it's good for these things, many people that use this find that a lot of their skin issues actually clear up. So these are patches that are dealing with more of the physicality of our well-being. The rocket patch, for us men, as we get older, our masculine function tends to decline. This will help us to reclaim that virility and have a better masculine performance. Then there are other patches that deal more with the physiological, psychological part of it. The REM patch, this is, I don't know, I can't speak enough about this, but most of us do not get REM sleep, which is where our body repairs, replenishes, and rejuvenates itself. This works really well for that. The Peace patch, which is one of my favorites, this one is for the stress response. This balances the autonomic nervous system. And I can't say enough how critically important this patch is, because the system that runs everything in our body, this keeps that regulated. The stress response, anxiety, feeling calm, developing more emotional resilience, beautiful patch for that. This one is cognitive function, enhanced focus, concentration, memory, things like that. Joy, another cognitive mood enhancement. You're feeling depressed, you're feeling down. This will regulate the brainwave activity in those pathways of your brain to help to bring us out into a better state of feeling and being. And this Kick patch is actually is tremendous when it comes to healthy habits. People that have cravings, not just an addictions, but it's not just food or substances. This is more so very helpful when we have addictive thinking. There are people, lots of people that are addicted to certain mindsets and thought patterns, worrying, overthinking, things that they cannot control and get a handle on. This will help us to be able to do that. When you put them together, they're very transformative. So when we understand that brainwaves is an expression of our inner state, and while we're working on our inner state, if we can bring brainwave activity to resemble a better frame of mind, then we also get the results, both physically and mentally. So a brain in sync is a body in balance. And when the brain rhythms flow harmoniously, the body systems resonate in accord. And this synchronizes that order and nurtures that inner essence that we all possess. So when you combine patches together, you synchronize that power, you're actually going to even go deeper and further into regulating brainwave activity for even greater responses in terms of physiology and the psychology of our body. The patches are very simple to use. You just peel it, you stick it on. Each patch is good for 24 hours. There's a lot of intensive research, development, and peer-reviewed studies that's gone into this. And so there's no question about the validity of them, of the patches. We have a scientific advisory board that works with the research and development team, and they do a lot. They make sure the real world application is all intact, compliance, and everything. So we have everything that's run with the integrity that we need. And so I want to just encourage you that as you look at your health, as you look at your life, as you understand that health is not a separate aspect of all the other things that's going on in your life, it is just one expression of the many things that we might be struggling with or trying to get in order. And so it's not to prioritize one over the other, but we can, while we're working on them, but to understand the very root of it all is this inner alignment, because when life flows from the inside out, every aspect of our life begins to improve. Now, that's difficult to quantify. It could only be done by experience. You have to have the experience of it. And so I want to encourage you that to try the patches and experience what it's like. These are advanced solutions that has not existed before. And you know what? They're tailored for you by you, because it's your own inner intelligence that's encoded into your very being that is working with and that's doing the work. The patches are not doing the work. Your inner intelligence and wisdom of your body is doing it. This is just removing the interference. We have a Patch and Go Facebook page that has thousands of testimonies on it. And so I just want to thank all of you for taking the time and coming on and giving me an opportunity to share this technology with you, but also more so to understand that health is way more than just about your body. Health is not the genesis. It is not the beginning. It's not the standard. It's not what we're supposed to pursue. It is just an echo of the deeper inner alignment. We want to pursue that inner alignment. And when we have that right, the echo that comes out of that is health. So thank you so much for taking the time and attending with us. I trust that you would have gotten something this evening that would have helped you to begin to think, to begin to consider, begin to examine, begin to approach things a little bit differently when it comes to your health and your life. And so how Mr. Dhaliwal is reaching out in his mission to change the world with this superb technology is by offering individuals who may be interested to join a movement where you're looking at a super way to enhance your well-being, but you can also enhance your financial capacity for those who may be interested, because one of the biggest stresses we have today is financial. And so SuperPatch has a global expansion project where they're expanding their business globally, and they're offering an opportunity for those who might be interested. It's an economic model unlike anything that exists. It is as unique as the patch. It is globally scalable, and you can have, on a very part-time basis, if you're interested in looking at other sources of income. We talk about this on Monday, as well as get into the interactions of questions regarding the technology, the business, or anything that you might have heard in terms of the understanding of health with the presentation. So for those of you who might be interested, you can reach out to the person who might have invited you to be on the call to share some of this information, or you can reach out to me. If you want a copy of the recording, you can also reach out and have a copy of the recording if you want to go back over some of the information. So what you got this evening is that whether it is that you're concerned about your health or any aspect of your life, whether it is we may be taking our health for granted, whether it is that whatever aspect of our life we want to improve, you got the grassroots solution tip along with the technology to help us to get there. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I want to say thank you once again for being here. And next on Monday at 6:30, you can just reach out to me, or if someone invited you to be on the call, reach out to them and they'll be able to share the link with you for the call on Monday. And so with that, I want to say thank you very much. May God bless you all, and start to consider not health as being about your body, but it's all about your life on every level. And so good night. Take care. Until next time, God bless.